There we go. Hello, people on YouTube. Okay, so if you give me just a second, I need to very quickly set this up. I should have done this before I pressed record. Da, da, da. I will just hum a tune. There we go. Right, and now to share my screen. Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yeah.
Lovely. Oh, excellent. Right, okay. Thank you for bearing with me there. So let me just move this off my screen a little bit. There we go. Okay, so if you haven't met me already, I just want to kind of very quickly cover who I am, what I do. At the moment, I am kind of volunteering for Osmic, so you might have seen my name on some of the emails if you've emailed us, or sending out the newsletters or anything like that. But my day job, as it were, is as a social media and marketing mentor. So I mainly work with either faith-based organisations on a bit of a larger scale, or one-on-one clients. So normally people who have a small spiritual business generally. There are some people outside of that who are in wellness, perhaps yoga teachers, but in general, I work with people who have been called to serve, would be the way I would break that down. I was ordained last year, so I'm a fresh minister, and my ministry does seem to now be emerging in this space of helping spiritual businesses. I'm an ex-RE teacher. I do say ex, I didn't last very long at all. And pretty much since then, I've had a range of jobs within marketing departments of varying levels. Beginning of COVID, I lost my job through, so many people did lose their jobs, but it was at that point I decided to go freelance, which is the first time I'd ever really started trying to work for myself. Yeah, and pretty much this is where I am now, is just continuing to try and build my own business. I've recently launched Spiritunity, which you can see the logo up there, which is it absolutely will grow into a bit of a hub for spiritual businesses. I won't go into that too much because that's not really why I'm here. So what to expect from this particular talk? As I was saying before I hit record, you can't do a 1 hour talk about marketing and answer everybody's questions. So this is very much a very gentle introduction, really. So I have kind of assumptions as to why you're here. One is that you have been called to serve in some way, and through that, you are either looking to run a business, you already have started running a business, or you're looking to spread awareness of your message. So I would also assume that marketing isn't what you'd call your skill set. Or you might be here because you're wanting a bit of a refresher. So you're either right at the very start of your business, like I say, or you've come this far and you've muddled through, which is absolutely a valid way of running your business. I'm not putting any judgment out there, because that's pretty much what I did for the first 2 years or so. So I want to come onto this wonderful question here. And this is mainly because when I work with one-to-one clients, there is a massive block just with this one term. So I would like you to just take a minute or so just to have a real think about your relationship with that term, marketing. What does it mean to you? Does it invoke any imagery? Does it have any connotations linked to it? maybe jot it down on a bit of paper. But I would love to hear anyone's thoughts on this. Is there anything that immediately comes to mind when I say marketing?
Yeah, selling yourself. Sort of doesn't sit with being a minister somehow. Selling.
Right. And yeah, the two terms are obviously very linked. And a lot of the work I do is trying to get into the root of where this comes from, the aversion to selling, the aversion to money, and in relation, the aversion to raising your own voice into what seems like a world full of very, very strong voices. And there's that self-doubt that you can join and make your voice heard. Is there anyone else who might have some thoughts or connotations that come along with this?
Yeah, I said, Tanya's my name. I said, to put yourself out there, to be known. I'm not good at it.
Yeah, so that comes back to the almost the same thing. It's this thought, it's the immediate doubt that comes along without really looking at why you might not like the idea of selling, or why you might not like the idea of social media, or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think maybe because I had a job where I was teacher of special ed, and I never had to think about selling myself ever. I just got paid, and the money just came, and it was like, and now it's like, yeah, I never did that before. I don't think I can do it now.
Yeah, and do you know what? From a very personal point of view, that period I had where I lost my job, that was the first time that I wasn't in employment. And then to go from employment to all of a sudden, while I was training, actually, this is what, just when I, in my first year of the course, all of a sudden I'm having to go into this world of how on earth do I get clients? I know that I know my stuff with marketing and social media, I know the stuff, but how do I then get clients? How do I attract them, essentially? And I felt so, in a way I still do. You know, I was saying, but again, before I hit record, that I've got this little like nest of butterflies just talking. This is all part of it. This is all part of me starting to put myself out there and to say, look, I know my stuff. I really do. Anyway, we will move on. There we go. Yeah, so just here, I'm not going to read them all out. These are a lot of the common fears that I come across, and I'd say more with my one-to-one clients. And it all kind of comes from, or it stems from, people's experience of marketing. So they've experienced the big brands and this idea of manipulation, and that they've used some psychology techniques to get you to spend your money, and that you might feel a loss of control because of the way these companies market to us. You know, you can't control your own spending, or there's deception involved, and there is, it kind of creates a social pressure as well. This is kind of what you see. And where I find with people who would consider themselves spiritual, this is where a lot of the fear comes from, is you don't want to join that. You don't want to come across as putting pressure on other people. You don't want to kind of ask people to part with their money if they don't feel value in that. And I think it is important just to evaluate your own kind of relationship, and how long you spend doing this is completely up to you. But I think what I want to say, or my general message, is it doesn't matter. You know, you're not joining the big brands. You don't have a team of marketing and psychology experts behind you. All you're wanting to do, I am assuming, admittedly, is say to the world, I have a service. I think it will help you. I would like some money in return for that so that I can pay my bills, which personally I think is a very, very valid reason to market. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be, you don't need like the full-on marketing strategy that you hear about. You don't have to spend years working out the perfect plan. Sometimes you just need to move in the right direction, however feels comfortable. And that's kind of what I'm going to be covering today, is the different options open to you. Where do you feel comfortable? What do you feel comfortable doing? Where does your knowledge already lie? Is there something that interests you that you might want to learn more about? So this is where we're going to go. So as I say, just take a deep breath. Let any fears go just for the next, however long was that, 45 minutes. Let's just pretend. Marketing's a good thing. Just pretend. And I truly believe if we're moving in the right direction, the divine absolutely has our back. Whether you believe in law of attraction or not, as soon as you have that intention, you are starting to move in the right direction. Now, what I also want to do is to change the word marketing to love. I completely want to reframe it. And I want to take out all of those negative connotations. And what do I mean by love? Well, you'll know what love means. But it's love for your new potential clients who have been looking for something like you are offering. It's love for yourself, and that you are worth the financial reward for your knowledge and your skills. And it's love for the connections, the potential connections you're going to make through business, you know. And it's love for your message, your calling, your love for the divine. This is what you're bringing into it. So whenever I say marketing, change that word to love. So where do we start? Normally, the jargon is we start with a marketing strategy. Scratch that. It's a love plan. Simple as that. We are going to plan how we're going to love on people. Really is as simple as that. It doesn't have to be complicated. So I want you to take a minute and have a think about what is truly and honestly your goal for your love efforts. I want you to write this down. Is it that you want more clients? Is it that you want to spread awareness of your services? Is it that you want more of an income? So I want you to write it down as if it's the start of a new affirmation. And perhaps you might want to use the starting line, I will show love by ... Now I will say, I have personally done this, well, it was last week. I'm starting to kind of relook at marketing for myself and my own business. And my own goal essentially is I will show love by supporting 5 new clients through supporting their businesses. I had a client who said, I will show my love by holding space. But this is your goal. I'm not going to ask you to read it out because this is personal to you. This is your goal. It's the anchor to your plan. As we go through, we're going to have a look back at this anchor, essentially, and think, are we moving towards this? It's okay if you change it. I've changed it many, many, many times. Right, we're just going to go on to almost step 1 in the process of creating a love plan. And it's thinking about who is your soul client, also known in the business as ideal client or avatar. I like to use soul client. So we are at this stage, we're describing our perfect client. Not that anything's perfect, but we're using our imagination. They can be completely fictional right now. It could be someone you've worked with before who you had such a connection with, and when you worked with this people, it just lit up your life. Essentially, it didn't feel like work because of the connection you had. I want you to dream into who this is. Again, can be completely fictional. I often take this into meditation on a bit of a self-guided kind of meeting my ideal client. Who is it? What do they look like? And I've just put down there, you know, where do they live? How old are they? What are their family situation? What's their general location? How much do they earn? You could start thinking about, do they spend time on Facebook? Do they read, I don't know, The Guardian? What are their politics? You really can get so specific. You could go, they have 3 cats if you want. They keep birds. It's the more specific, the better, essentially, because it actually helps you further down the line attract these people. When you're doing your marketing, when you're writing something to say, just say you're on social media and you're just writing a little bit to go on social media, and you've got your soul client in the back of your mind. You can write it as if you're speaking directly to this person. It's almost like writing a letter to your soul client every time you put pen to paper. And again, if you are into law of attraction, I really don't need to say much more about how this is useful. From a very practical point of view, it really does help you to align your message with what you want to attract. It really is as simple as that. Right. I'll just give you a couple of minutes just to write down some ideas. Maybe give them a name. Are they male? Are they female? Are they non-binary? I do go into a little bit more detail in the workbook about this, so don't worry too much today if you haven't written much. So you've had a think about your goal. You've had a think about your soul client. Now we come to the nitty-gritty. And actually, this is the part that most of my one-to-one clients find overwhelming, because there is so much out there. And it's deciding where to now go, where to focus your efforts in your love plan. So just as an example, one of my clients came to me pretty much in a panic with, I have to be on social media, I need social media. Basically, their grandkids had told them that they needed to be on social media. An entrepreneurial friend of hers had said that they needed to network and they needed to start an email campaign. Now, the reality was, bless her, she was 85 and really had no desire really to be working on a computer. That wasn't where she found joy at all. But she had been pressured into the thought of, to have a business, I must be on social media. I must have all of these things that I've been told that I need to do. So what I want to do now is just run through the different options that you have open to you that come under this term marketing. And I kind of want to show you that it really, really doesn't matter which avenue you take. You don't need the perfect plan at all. Yes, you can have help if you want to, but what I want you to do, as I run through all of these different options, I want you to think of, what's your budget? because that is a very important consideration. Do you have a budget that you can put behind you? If so, how much? I want you to think about your time. Do you have time to be putting content together for social media, or to be writing newsletters? Because again, a very, very important consideration when you're putting together a plan. When you have a plan, it needs to be able to work for you. Do you have technical skills? Are you happy sitting at a computer? Do you like creating images on Canva, for example? Do you like social media? Be aware of what you don't like as well, because whenever you do anything, especially if you work for yourself and you don't have anyone else that you can turn to, the energy that you put into any activity is what your audience will see. If you're on social media and you can have the most perfect social media plan, if you don't enjoy social media, your audience will pick up on that and you won't get good results, really. All right, so I will start with, let's go with that one. So these are what I would call the easiest, really, the easiest ways that you can love yourself, market yourself. And first of all is word of mouth. So I'm talking about your friends, your family. Have you worked with previous clients? All of these people are going to be more than likely, obviously different for different people, don't want to generalize, but these people are going to be your biggest supporters. Do you have other people from your year within One Spirit who can help spread the message? If you've got previous clients, could they talk about you to their friends? Could you offer some kind of incentive, maybe a free session if you're a spiritual counselor? Maybe it's money off somewhere. Don't know. I would also put in networking with word of mouth. What do I mean by networking? So depending where you are in the country, you can normally, just with a very quick Google search or Facebook groups or something like this, you can normally find business networking groups. They can be free. They can have a little charge attached to them. My personal experience is when I very, very first started, admittedly, it was in social media, but when I very first started my business, 100% of my clients came from networking and word of mouth. So there was a friend of a friend who just happened to want some help with social media. And this is the thing, it's putting the word out that you have a service and that you want help to find new clients. There's nothing wrong with asking people. There really isn't. And again, there is, or there has been some worry from one-to-one clients about speaking to family, for example, and almost like coming out to your family as spiritual. Maybe it's friends. Not everyone's the person to talk to. Posters and leaflets. A little bit of a cost involved, obviously, with printing, but it can be very, very straightforward. You could put something together on Word, a very simple word processing program, or you could have a bit of a play on a program like Canva, if you've heard of it. If you haven't heard of it, it's canva.com, I believe, and there is a free version, and you can play about with different images. If you want to, if you look at it and the whole thing's overwhelming, there are plenty of YouTube videos on how to get started. If that's something you want to do, you can get a bit of a fancier poster, a bit of a fancier leaflet. You can drop these leaflets door to door. If you think that would be beneficial, you could drop them in libraries, waiting rooms. Don't forget staff rooms as well, alternative shops if you are in the spiritual realm. I've got a lovely little crystal shop that just welcomes all the leaflets. I think they're Leaflet Central, bless them. So this one here, organic social media. This is my personal bread and butter is organic. And what do I mean by organic social media? There is a difference between free social media and paid adverts for social media. There's two completely different things using the same platforms when it comes to marketing. For free social media, I'm talking about things like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, maybe, and YouTube as well. YouTube is considered a social media. Now, the biggest misconception, I'll try not to spend too long on social media because I really can go off on one, so apologies if I do. The biggest misconception with organic social media is that you can put out adverts and you're going to be able to sell all of your products, services easily. No, it doesn't work like that. You might get one or two, you might be able to sell to your friends and family, but in general, sales adverts on organic social media are a bit of a waste of time. Not all the time. Some businesses it worked well for. I would say a bit of a generalization. It's perfect for creating community. So we're talking about commenting on other people's posts. So we're talking about the engagement there and encouraging people to come and look at your post. It's about building your brand. And by brand, I don't want to get right into the branding today, because again, that's a whole different subject, but your brand is you. I want to talk about you. So you're building you and your message. It's also a portfolio. So for example, if you're a celebrant, a wedding celebrant, having pictures on Instagram of the weddings that you attend and you as a celebrant is a fantastic way of letting people into your world. It's also somewhere that you can point people. So you have someone come to you interested in what you do, perhaps maybe thinking about booking you. You can direct them to Instagram where they can see a whole load of pictures of you being a celebrant. This also works for YouTube. YouTube is particularly good, and TikTok as well, is the video element. So video helps connect on a deeper level. You have pictures are better than just text because people can see you. As soon as people can really see you move, and like you're looking at the presentation, but when you look at me, you can see how I move, how I smile. You can almost make that instant judgment of, oh, I like you, I hope. Oh, I like you, or I don't like you. You're not of my energy. I don't align with you. And video is very, very good with that, because in general, especially when you're giving spiritual services, people are a bit nervous on taking up a service they may not have experienced before. So I would encourage you, if you feel only if you feel comfortable, start thinking about video. And there are different ways that you can share that video. You can have short form of 30 seconds or 2 minutes on TikTok, or longer form on YouTube. I will leave that there. If you have questions about social media, like chuck them at me at the end. I really could go on forever about it. Email marketing is also another one of my favorite ways of community building. And I imagine you're here today because you've received a newsletter from Osmic saying, these are the details, here you go. And actually, since we've been kind of ramping up the emails, I've seen more people opening these emails. I'm getting a lot of responses to the emails, just people bringing up thoughts, which when I started back in February, there wasn't really much going on. But now, nearly every time I send an email, I'll get about 5 emails in response, just asking different things or suggesting different things, which is fantastic. This is community building. And especially for an organization like Osmic, where we are all about community, fabulous, really genuinely fabulous. Now, an advantage of email marketing is if you have the time to put it together, when you own an email address, you don't own it. That's the wrong thing to say. When you have someone's email address, it's yours. Whereas if you have a social media account, anything could happen to that. The social media platform could go down and you'd lose that audience. Once you have an email address and put it into your email audience, you've always got that. You can always contact your customers. And just as an example of that, and I know there's a couple of people in the room today who were here for this or during this. I did a social media challenge last December, where I had a Facebook group, and basically I was setting a challenge every day, like try and post this kind of post or try and post this other kind of post. And we were all in this Facebook group. And I got banned from Facebook. I still, to this day, do not know why I got banned, but I had no way of being able to access this group at all. I hadn't collected any email addresses. And I then had to move everyone onto a completely different platform by asking a friend of mine if they could contact it. It was messy. It was unprofessional completely. And I learned my lesson. I'm not saying don't have Facebook groups. I'm just saying be aware of some of the things that you can come up against with these different methods. If you think maybe newsletters, if you do events, if you hold groups or different kinds of events, genuinely think about email marketing, collecting email addresses for people who want to know what's going on. They have the option of unsubscribing. Generally, you do not need to spam at all. You could send one email a month. You could send one email every 2 months, whatever feels right for you. Definitely something that I would encourage is email marketing. So we're getting into a little bit more in depth, a little bit more money involved here. Website. So many people, and quite rightly, actually, I will say, like, having a website is important. I would love to say that it isn't. I would caveat that with saying, to date, I don't have a website. I'm actually working on mine at the moment. This is 2 years in. I've got this far without a website. I'm getting to the point now where I have to. If I want to take my business further, I do need a website. Don't let that bog you down, though. If you don't have the money, you don't have the technical know-how, you can still get by without a website. You genuinely, you can. I think it's something to kind of, if you don't have the money and all the rest of it, kind of put a pin in it to the point where you might have enough money to maybe hire someone to help you, or the money that I spend mainly goes into web hosting, and I'd say it's about, for me, £150 a year. It can be more expensive than that. I have a friend who pays more like £300 for their package. Some people just have a free page somewhere. Like, we can do the research, we can find somewhere that's free to have a website, and it's just a page where it tells people who you are, what the services are, and how to contact you. That's basically all you need, really. I genuinely want to say, don't let the lack of a website hold you back. There are other ways to get started. You've got the networking, you've got the word of mouth. Once you have a little bit of money behind you, you can start doing leaflets if you have local services or one-to-one services for people. Paid ads. Bane of my existence. Paid ads. The more money you sink into paid ads, the better. There is no guarantee that you will get returns, especially when you very first start. I won't go into the reasons why, but generally, once you've done a couple of campaigns, that's when you start to see results. It can get very expensive. Not trying to put you off, just be aware. some people do very, very well with paid ads, but as I say, the first couple tend to not get the results you want. Then it starts to build. I won't spend too much time on paid ads. I really won't. But have a look. If it interests you, do have a look. No, I won't go into that because that takes me down another route. Even higher budget. I'm not going to spend time on these at all, because I believe if you were looking at these kind of things, you wouldn't be on this call, quite honestly. So we're talking about the print media, television and radio adverts, direct mail. That's when you get all the stuff through the letterbox. You can get stuff printed. You can only imagine how expensive that becomes. Outdoor advertising, utilizing billboards. I have done that in my time, gone out with a sandwich board. I won't be doing that again. Public relations. These can be free, actually. If you have connections to a local newspaper, that can be good. It might be worth having a look to see if there's any local magazines. I know here in Portsmouth there's 2 free magazines that run, that they pay for themselves through advertising, but they like to run features on local businesses, and sometimes you can get in and have a feature on you. Might be worth having a look at. Also, if you have a bit of money, think about sponsorships. Is there like a local charity that you can sponsor? Also, collaborations. Have a think of local businesses that you could work with, maybe, or other people in the area that, or I say in the area, could be online, other people who offer similar services. Maybe you could do a collaboration between the 2 of you, and that way you're both accessing each other's audiences. How are we doing on time? Oh, I really am talking. Sorry. Right, I am going to jump through these. I was just going to give you an example of one of my customers, who's Alana, who we went through this here, which is creating your love plan. So I am going to jump through this because I do have a workbook that you can download that goes through all of this, and it may be a little bit more detail as well. But basically, we're looking at, what do you already feel comfortable doing? What is it that you could do within your time, your budget? What do you need to get going to do these things? If you're thinking of networking, is it worth you making some business cards to take with you? What do you need to do to make these business cards? What research do you need to do to find out the groups that are in your area? This is what I'm talking about, is going, right, I'm going to have a website. What do I need to do to get to having a website? And it's starting to make that plan up of actions. And it's the actions that are important. What actions are going to take you towards your goal? Doesn't necessarily happen overnight. And this is where the plan comes in. All right. So yeah, the takeaways to keep in mind: you do not have to be perfect. You do not have to have the perfect plan. You do not need to have a budget. You can have, absolutely, things can be done for free. You do not need technical skills. If you don't like computers, you don't like social media, that's completely okay. There are still things that you can do. You do not need to have expert knowledge at all. There's things like Google, there's things like YouTube. If there's things you need to know, there is nothing stopping you finding out whatever you can for free. There are resources out there. All you need, I hate to be all cliche about this, is love. Genuinely. If you have a calling, you have a mission, you have love, use that to take you forward. This is the reason you're doing it. Do what you love, do what you enjoy. Don't do what you don't like. It really is as simple as that. Thank you for listening. Yay. Right. I'm going to close all this down and stop sharing. There we go. Right. Hello. Apologies, I went on for a little longer than I expected, but we do have a little bit of time for questions if you wish. Before we do that, I am going to very quickly pop in a link to this workbook. And this is going to be an example of marketing, actually. Oh, that doesn't help. Nope, that doesn't help. Let's try this a different way. Knew there'd be something that goes wrong. No, it doesn't want to do that either. Right, while I'm just working on this, is there any questions coming off the back of this?
How do you promote your book, Sass, if you don't have a website?
What kind of book do you have?
Sorry?
What kind of book do you have?
I have a website, but I'm wondering how you manage it without one.
Well, with the little bit of knowledge that I have about books and what have you, if you can get it listed on places like Amazon, then there's somewhere that someone can go to actually physically purchase the book. Then it's a case of how do you spread the word? Now, personally, I would use social media, but that's because I'm very comfortable with social media. If I didn't have social media, do you know what I would say? Is who is the book for? Are they, would they be spiritual people? If so, what groups are you a part of that have spiritual people in them? Have a chat with the people in those groups and see if there's something you could do there. Obviously, in my head, I'm going osmic, but it's not that we've worked out how we can help at the moment. But there's not just groups like us. There's many, many, many groups who are spiritual. And this is just an example. I don't know your book, but it's starting to think on the audience of the product. How can you access those audiences who might be interested? Does that help at all?
That's interesting. Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Very, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you.
No worries. Is there anything else? Any other questions? Go on, Neil.
Hey, Sass, and hello, everybody, and hello, Mary. Mary and I go back a long way. Lovely to see you. Lovely to see you all. And thanks for a great talk, Sass. And I look forward to following things up soon with you. I suppose the issue I just wanted to quickly raise is I guess there's two sort of broad types of marketing. There's one which is aimed at sort of a potentially large audience from which a self-selected sample comes and forms your client base. And the thing I'm interested in exploring at the moment is I'm thinking of starting a very small meditation group locally in a community centre here. And I just want local people, particularly people who might not normally be party to that kind of activity, to know about it. So I'm thinking about a slightly more personalised way of marketing it, perhaps involving a chat with a person or small group of people. And as Mary will know from knowing me from way back, one of the client groups I'm particularly interested in trying to reach out to is homeless people here in Bath, where I live. And that, I think, would require a conversation. Perhaps at the same time as sharing something, be that a flyer or a business card or something, but just a slightly more personalised way of approaching a smaller potential audience of people.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, that's very much a word of mouth. I would say when it comes to local services, local products. That's for me where it becomes very, very beautiful and intimate and involves these kind of conversations and the word of mouth, approaching people. It does take maybe a little bit of confidence if you're approaching people who you've never met before. But I think this is where for me personally, and I am talking from a very personal point of view, that's where the connections genuinely come from. And I think when you've managed to have a conversation with someone, they are more likely to be on your side and want to support you. That's why we're working one-to-one with people. I will make sure that we have a half-hour chat before we even agree on an exchange of services for money, because it's kind of like almost like we're checking each other out. We're kind of like, do we align? Am I right for you? Can I genuinely help you? Or there are other people I know who might work with them better. Like there's a reason I'm not a funeral celebrant at the moment. Is somewhere I want to go eventually, but there's someone in the area, another interfaith minister, who are like, if someone came to me wanting a funeral celebrant, I would want to pass them on to the other minister here, because they are just so experienced, so wonderful, and can hold the space better than I believe I can right now. So I'm wanting to align the best possible experience for the client with the person. And then very often I've not wanted to give someone services just because it's not right. So I do believe that conversation, sorry, I'm going off on one again, bit of a tangent, but having that conversation with someone before you decide to work with them, whether this is a meditation circle, so yes, absolutely. One way to connect with people, and not necessarily to go buy my services, is to talk about the subject, to see where they are. I mean, we are ministers, we are spiritual counselors as well. This is where our skills lie, is in connection, I believe. And again, maybe I'm assuming. Does that answer your question, Neil? Or was there a question? Thank you.
May I say something to Neil, please, Sass?
Absolutely.
Neil, I was just thinking, I was trying to put myself in the shoes of, which is impossible, but you can imagine you're the people you'd like to attract into the group, and say homeless people in the area. And if somebody wanted me to come for meditation, I'd go, oh, Jesus. But if it was put a different way, if the language that you used was different, I don't mean hoodwink people in any way, but what's the purpose of this? If you really look at your purpose, what's your purpose? And is your purpose, say, community building? Is your purpose maybe as simple as giving somebody the tools to relax a bit?
Yeah.
Then, and if there's a cup of, if there's, sitting in a group for somebody like that could be completely terrifying. But if there's a cup of tea and a biscuit in front of you, you might feel different. So I'm not sure, Neil, what your purpose is, but that just popped into mind. Now, for what it's worth.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Absolutely 100% that.
What is the least threatening way? Like if you ask me to a ballet class, I'd get sick on purpose not to go. What I'm saying is, where do you imagine these people are at? You don't know. You're not in their lives, but you're offering needs to hold them or hold a space for them, where society has, in fact, or their lives, or whatever way their lives went, has almost proven that nobody holds a space for them. And they have nowhere to call home.
Yeah, it's this idea of you have a mattress. Your job is to sell a mattress. Do you sell the mattress or do you sell a good night's sleep?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same principle.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it is the same principle.
Yeah. And
100.
the second, sorry, Sass,
No, carry on.
I don't want to take up all the time, but a few years ago, I got a free website made by, and I just tried to look at it there. I'm Anya Maloney, AINEMOLONEY.ie, if you want to have a look at it. And, but I can't remember who did it. But it was genuine and they put in a lot of time into it. And I think I was somebody, it was an online, people were taking an online course in how to make websites, etc. And I was somebody's assignment.
Yeah. Just very quickly, because
I write all the content now, which I didn't mind doing, but have a look at it and see if you think the standard is good. And
I'm very aware of the time, if that's okay.
Yeah,
and there's a couple more questions, but very good point. It's worth, if you have students in the area, contacting colleges or universities to see if there's any projects going on. Absolutely valid point. Thank you. Yes, April, thank you.
Hi, I think that this thing that Neil has brought forward is a really excellent example of marketing to a niche audience, because I think it brings to mind the idea of kind of secondary audiences. Having worked with the homeless for years and years and years myself, I can tell you that probably your best secondary audience in this instance is the service providers that already exist for the homeless are probably going to be your best audience for what you're offering. If there are people out there who are working in shelters or working with shelters, those are probably going to be the people you want to market to as like a secondary audience, and that you're offering support to them by offering support to the people that they serve. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you, April. Mary, I am so sorry we are starting to run out of time, but if you are happy to kind of stay on after 12, I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Would that be okay, Mary?
Sure, yeah.
Lovely, thank you. Just to say, I did put the link in the chat, and what this will do, it will take you to what we call the landing page, where it will ask you for your email address. You pop in your email address and it will send you the workbook to your inbox. You are more than welcome to unsubscribe after that point. This is an example of email marketing that you can do to get those email addresses that you can start sending emails to. I feel completely okay doing this because of that unsubscribe option. People can, they don't have to receive my emails. I don't need them to receive my emails. If they just want the free thing and go, I am more than happy to have helped them, So that's just an example. I want to thank you for coming along today, and for the people on YouTube and for the people here, do feel free to send me an email at any point if you need any pointers. If there's information that you're struggling to find, it's sass@spiritunity.co.uk. If you can't remember that, you can find me on the Osmic email as well, and I'll just take you over to my own personal one later. If you have any questions, not just Mary, you're more than welcome just to hang on. I've got another 15 minutes that I can hang around for, but you are more than welcome to leave now with my absolute blessings and good luck with everything. Thank you for coming along, and I'll just stop recording.